The Eucharist, also known as Holy Communion or the Lord's Supper, is the central and most sacred ritual in Christianity. The sharing of bread and wine is a commemoration of the final meal Jesus shared with his disciples before his crucifixion. While the theological interpretations of this meal have been the subject of intense debate for centuries, its historical origins are firmly rooted in one of the most important Jewish festivals, the Passover Seder. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke all place Jesus' Last Supper in the context of a Passover meal. Passover is the annual festival that commemorates the Exodus, when God liberated the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. The Seder meal is a highly symbolic and ritualized feast, where each element on the table tells a part of that story of liberation. The unleavened bread, or matzah, recalls the haste with which the Israelites fled Egypt, with no time to let their bread rise. The several cups of wine consumed during the meal symbolize joy and God's promises of redemption. Jesus and his disciples, as devout Jews, would have been celebrating this meal just as their people had for centuries. During this traditional Jewish meal, however, Jesus did something radical. He took two of the most common elements of the meal, the bread and the wine, and gave them a new and deeply personal meaning. According to the Gospels, he took the bread, broke it, and said, "This is my body, which is given for you." Later, he took a cup of wine and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you." He was reinterpreting the ancient symbols of the Passover in light of his own impending death. The bread was no longer just about the Exodus, it was now his body, to be broken. The wine was no longer just about the old covenant of liberation from Egypt, it was his blood, which would seal a new covenant of liberation from sin. This act created the foundation for the Christian Eucharist. However, as the early church developed, the question of what Jesus meant by those words became a source of major division. What does it mean to say the bread is his body? This led to the development of several different doctrines. The Roman Catholic Church developed the doctrine of Transubstantiation, which holds that during the Mass, the bread and wine, while retaining their outward appearance, are miraculously transformed in their essential substance into the actual body and blood of Christ. Martin Luther, the Protestant reformer, proposed consubstantiation, the belief that Christ is spiritually present in, with, and under the forms of the bread and wine. Most other Protestant and evangelical traditions hold to a symbolic view, believing that the bread and wine are powerful memorials and symbols of Christ's sacrifice, but do not change in substance. All of these diverse Christian traditions, however, trace their most sacred ritual back to that single moment when Jesus reframed a traditional Jewish Passover meal around his own body and blood.